Warning, this video is not targeted to kids and may be inappropriate to younger audiences. Your discretion is advised. Hello, dudes and dudettes. It's your favorite reader, GamerX17 here, and I am back once again for another Minecraft lesson. I almost did the whole panning to the right thing. I need to stop trying to do that. It's just because I do it on instinct. And well, I mean, if I do it, it looks like I'm trying to fool up myself. So no, I want to show off the other stuff. You know, the actual interesting stuff, not my banner. Anywho, so yes, as the title suggests, we are of course continuing on our remake or revisiting previous lessons that I had made, and one of those is the food lessons. So, and how convenient! I wasn't really planning on it. I just thought, hey, this is a good spot. Oh, it's right next to my previous food tier list. Which, yeah. Well, I mean, not necessarily tier list, more like I want based off something else. However, in this case, I, of course, as I mentioned in the previous episode, have learned a lot more of how these foods work in my survival Minecraft world that I've been working on for who knows how long already. And, well, here we go. So all of these are in order of lowest food points to the most food points. But, however, I will be explaining all the other things. So if you're just here for food points specifically, I will briefly go over that. If you're here for the more information, such as the effects, saturation points, and where you could possibly harvest and find them, continue onward. Regardless, we'll start off with just the normal food points. So, starting off with, we got food points of 1, or specifically half a hunger bar, which is what all of these 5 lovely food items will do. 2 food points, or 1 full hunger bar meter. The chicken nugget. Oh, that's not chicken nugget. It's I think it's a drumstick or something like that. Yeah, we'll call them drumsticks. These will give you a food point of 2 or 1 drumstick. These here will give you a hunger point of 3 or 1.5 of a drumstick. These items here will give you a total of 4 hunger points or 2 drumsticks. These foods here will give you a total of 5 food points, or 2.5 drumsticks. And these foods here will give you a total of 6 food points. Why do I keep saying hunger? Or 3 drumsticks. And these foods, if I'm not mistaken, it jumps completely, skipping 7. So yeah, these are actually 8 food points, or translating to 4 drumsticks, which is pretty impressive all on its own. And oh right, I forgot. There we go. And finally, this one here. This one is a bit of an interesting one due to the fact of the amount of hunger points you received, which, if I am not mistaken, let me double check on my notes because I did this all by memory, but this one is a bit of a strange one. It is a total of 10 food points or 5 drumsticks, and cake is its own category because, as everyone fully knows, you can eat cake by eating layers off of it. I should probably do this. Now, apparently, for every single slice that you eat, it becomes 2 food points or 1 drumstick, making a total of 14 food points or 7 drumsticks. And then finally, these ones. At least I think so. What's in this one? Oh, just my other goodies that I don't really need. Don't know why I didn't clear it out. Okay, I'm gonna just ignore these. Is finally the suspicious stew variety, which every single one of them gives you the same amount of food points, I mean, which in total is in fact 6 or three three drumsticks. There you go. And there is a bit more when it comes to this, but that's a bit of a different story. Now then, moving along, that's basically just all the food points. So for anyone who is just curious about those, there you go, and that's about it. I got more stuff. Now then, to continue onward, I gotta explain what saturation points are, which I did not know was a thing or functionality in my previous lesson of food. So saturation points is basically is an additional food point. Only difference that food points is what is shown, and saturation points is what is the invisible hunger bar, as people like to refer to it, I guess. And what it does is that is its own secondary hunger bar, and when that runs out, then your hunger bar begins to run out. And typically those saturation points, if I'm not mistaken, are tied in with the amount of hold on, let me double check just to make sure I'm not making a fool of myself, even though I already have not too long ago. Nope, nothing. Alright then. If I'm not mistaken, saturation points are what gives you an additional amount of health until it starts eating away at your hunger bar. So, yeah. Anyway, moving along. So, now that I've explained that, now time to begin going through the whole process again, but this time adding in saturation points and its effects, if they have any, including how and where to harvest them. First of all, in our 1 food point or half a drumstick chest, we have ourselves potato, tropical fish, beetroot, dried kelp, and pufferfish. Now, the previous video of my remakes, I guess, potato, beetroot, and dried kelp were all foods that you can grow and harvest. Let's see. Beetroot has a saturation points of 1.2. So, yeah, pretty low, but then again, what do you expect from a food that is already on the low spectrum when it comes to food quality? I don't mean anything else. And when it comes to dried kelp, it is significantly lower than compared to the previous mentioned beetroot, which is a 0.2 saturation point. Yeah, pretty pathetic. Potatoes falls a little close to that category, but not as low, and that is a 0.6 saturation point. So pretty bad. Now then, the tropical fish, right? Yes, it is. That's what it's called. I'm having to look away to my notes. Tropical fish has a saturation of 0.2. and is typically harvested from fishing or killing the tropical fish that you find within natural oceans, or killing guardians, for which they'll end up dropping tropical fish. So yeah, if you want that, there you go. And then finally, the pufferfish. Now, pufferfish has a saturation point of, let me see, a 0.2 as well, and is easily obtained by either fishing, killing pufferfish that's found within the ocean naturally, or guardians, and will of course give you an effect of nausea 3, hunger 3, nausea, and poison 2. The first two being 15 seconds, and the latter being 60 seconds. It won't kill you. At least it shouldn't. Most of the time it doesn't kill players, but it's still not the greatest thing to eat. Unless you're, wanting to mess with your friends. Now then, moving on. We can already see we got sweet berries, glowberries, melon, and poisonous potato. Now then, as of course I previously mentioned, in the previous episode, we of course did the whole farm and harvest thing, and these were shown of how you can harvest them and grow them and all that other stuff. So let me bring up the thing. So let's see, we got ourselves the is Glowberry here? Yes, it is. Glowberry has a .4 saturation point and is collected, of course, from the vines. Not the funny ones, just the glowing ones. Melons is a saturation point of 1.2, and of course it has no effects whatsoever. Poison Potato has a 1.2 saturation point as well. However, of course, as the name suggests, it inflicts a poison onto you, and the poison will last for roughly 5 seconds. It's not always guaranteed that it will affect you with poison, but still wouldn't recommend eating it. Let's see. What's the other one? Sweet berries. There we go. Sweet berries has a saturation point of 1.2 and no effects, of course. Now then, moving on to the other things, we'll start off with this top row. And cookies. Cookies is made from cocoa beans, for sure, because obviously you can't. There's no other cookie variants in this game, so obviously it's cocoa beans to make the chocolate chip cookie. It is wheat as well, and that's pretty much about it. It's actually 2 wheat and 1 cocoa bean. Yeah, surprisingly, it took me a while to learn that in my survival world. That was fun. Anywho, and that cookie, of course, gives you a saturation effect of. I lost it. Here we go. 0.4 points, and no effects whatsoever. Now then, the raw salmon and raw cod variants, if I'm not mistaken, should be the same. Raw salmon and raw cod. If I can find it. I've got to organize my notes. Here it is. Both, of course, have the same saturation point, as I expected. Is 0.4 saturation points with no effects either. Raw mutton gives you a saturation point of 1.2, and of course, no effects. Raw mutton, of course, being harvested by sheep when you kill them. So yeah. Raw chicken. Oh boy. Raw chicken, of course, being harvested from killing a chicken. Gives you a saturation point of 1.2 and will cause hunger for 30 seconds. So, yeah. And also, it, before in previous versions as well, it would also cause poison. It was just poison, not hunger. I don't think it was hunger. I don't know. Then again, the poison effects were just deadly. You wouldn't die from it, though. Now then, moving on, what else? Spider Eye. Spider Eyes, it gives you pretty high saturation point of 3.2. And it gives you poison for 5 seconds. And Spider Eyes, if you couldn't tell, are harvested by killing a spider. So yeah. Now then, doesn't one of these have like a crap load of them? Oh, it wasn't that one. Okay. Moving on to these ones, which is, we'll start off with the carrot variation. Now, carrot, of course, you could grow it after finding one and just harvest a crap load of them if you please. Now, carrots will give you a saturation point of 3.6 with, of course, no effects. Raw pork chop, or raw pork, I guess you can call it, and raw beef, I believe, are the same when it comes to their own variants. Here it is. Raw beef and raw pork chops give you the saturation effect of 1.8 with no effects. When it comes to raw rabbit, it gives you another 1.8 as well with no effects. So yeah. And there was no, yeah, this one doesn't have anything. Next up, we got this row, which is actually flipped with how I organized it, and at least if you can call this organized, where the top row is actually the one with the effects, and the bottom one does not. So we'll start off with the bottom row, I guess, because why not? Let's keep this train rolling. I'm starting off with the normal, and then moving on. So obviously the apple, harvested from oak wood leaves after chopping down a tree or just by letting leaves uh, disappear by themselves naturally. Gives you a saturation point of 2.4 with no effects. So yeah, not too bad, but not too great. And its variants, which is of course the golden apple and the enchanted apple, which I previously ended up making myself a fool about when I tried to explain. Now, the golden apple you can craft by using, I believe it's gold nuggets? I'm going blank-minded now. But I believe it's gold nuggets or gold bars surrounding an apple. And it gives you a saturation point of 9.6. Pretty good when it comes to saturation points, with an effect of regeneration 2 for 5 seconds and absorption for 2 minutes. So yeah, that's pretty good. And of course you can find this naturally within the strongholds, the mine shafts, I mean, the desert pyramids, the dungeon, and basically anywhere where you can find rare loot in. And finally, the enchanted golden apple, which I was the one that I made a fool of myself of, where you could previously make it in different versions, earlier versions of Minecraft, and yes, that's when I actually used to be able to make them, but that is no longer a feature, and it gives you the same saturation point, 9.6. However, it gives you regeneration 2 for 20 seconds, regeneration 4 for 30 seconds. Oh, right, Bedrock version, sorry. Bedrock version is regeneration 4 for 30 seconds, absorption 4 for 2 minutes, resistance for 5 minutes, and fire resistance for 5 minutes. And it can only be found within, of course, like the previously mentioned, specifically areas of higher rare loot, such as desert temples, the dungeon, woodland mansions, and some mine shafts. What the heck was that? Oh, that scared me. Oh man, that terrified me. I was like, what in the world was that? Alrighty then, next up we got ourselves the coarse fruit. Now, of course, in our previous video, I swear I keep referencing it, I end up showing that you could grow the coarse plant and harvest it to where you can get the coarse fruit and throw it in a furnace and stuff, which by the way, our coarse plant grew, so hooray for that. I didn't even know that until I was preparing this area. Coarse fruit will give you a saturation point of 2.4, and of course, every single time you eat or consume said coarse fruit, you will teleport randomly in almost any direction, whether that be forward, back, diagonally, left and right, or even down. As for up, it happens sometimes, but not all the time due to the fact that people typically don't have anything above them that they could stand on, and of course has a chance of spawning and what's it called? An endermite. Oh, wait, no. Oh no, I'm thinking of ender pearls. Sorry, no, never mind. Does not have a chance of spawning endermite. I went based off of memory, but that was wrong. Anyway, moving along. Rotten flesh. Now then, when it comes to raw flesh, it has a saturation point of, where is it? Ah, here we go. 0.8 points. And it has a chance, a really high chance, of giving you hunger for 30 seconds. So, yeah. Even though I'll typically just eat that all the time. Man, my friends, when we play Minecraft, they'll just see me gnawing on on raw flesh. Anywho, moving along, we got ourselves bread, cooked rabbit, baked potato, and cooked cod. Wait, hold on. Okay then. I don't think I put that in correctly. Hold on, let me check my notes. Regardless, though, as I'm checking my notes, I will continue on with the whole process of this. Now, bread and baked potato, you can essentially technically grow both, bread requiring wheat and baked potato requiring potatoes. Baked potato is actually a food that I was completely crazy about when it comes to Minecraft because it's easy to harvest and you just need to cook it. Until I looked more into this whole food thing and I realized, holy crap, there's more things that are better than this. Baked potato giving you a saturation point of 6, and that's pretty much about it. No things. What are they called? Effects. Bread giving you another saturation point of 6 and no effects either. Cooked rabbit is of course harvest from rabbits, like as if you were trying to obtain raw rabbits again, but gives you a saturation point of its cooked variation of, if I can find it, where is it? 6 as well, with no effects either. And now then, cooked cod. Cooked cod gives you a saturation point of 6 as well. And I just realized there is a mistake when it comes to this thing. I was wondering why the cooked salmon wasn't here. The cooked salmon is also supposed to be here as well, and it's not the same as the cod at all. In fact, the cooked salmon is not supposed to be in this chest. Nope, I was doing it right. Okay, well, I guess we'll start off with the cooked salmon anyway. So moving on to the next chest, cooked salmon. The cooked variation of raw salmon, of course, gives a saturation point of 9.6, pretty high on the meter, and it gives you no effects whatsoever. Let's see, what else? We'll go with beetroot soup. Now, beetroot soup is, of course, made out of beetroot, specifically 6 beetroot and 1 bowl. Pretty heavy for a thing. But if the saturation point that beetroot soup gives is 7.2 with no effects either. Cooked mutton, the cooked variation of raw mutton, gives you a saturation point of 9.6 with no effects. Cooked chicken is of course the cooked variant of raw chicken, gives you the saturation point of 7.2 with no effects. We'll go with mushroom stew because golden carrot's a bit of an interesting one. Mushroom stew is made out of, I think, going based off like memory right now. I should have written it down. Is cooked with, of course, a bowl, because any soup variant you're going to need a bowl, with both variations of mushroom, I believe, which is the red and brown mushroom. And I think that is it. Yes, it is. That's the only thing there is. It gives you a saturation point of 7.2 with no effects. Now then, golden carrots. Golden carrots are quite an interesting one due to the fact that they, as of course, they're in this category for having 6 food points. They give you a saturation point of 14.4. They're pretty high when it comes to saturation points with no effects, and it is made, of course, with carrots, surrounded by gold nuggets. Or, of course, you could trade with villagers and obtain these carrots or emeralds. And now thinking about it, I probably should do a trading video in the future. Anyway, finally, honey bottle. Yes, honey bottles. I thought honey bottles were just gonna be some weird variants that you could easily obtain. No, they have some interesting stuff. Of course, they're on this category for having 600 food points. They give you a saturation point of 1.2, so pretty low. However, they have an effect, and it is that if you are ever poisoned, drink a honey bottle and you will be completely cured of poison. Similar to milk, but just with poison. Since milk can kill off any and all effects, honey bottles will only help you when it comes to poison. And are harvested from bees, or specifically bees' nests, or beehives and stuff. Moving on, we got ourselves the cooked variant of beef and pork chop. Beef and pork chop, if I'm not mistaken, actually have very different variations. Poked? Yeah, totally, poked. Cooked pork chops gives you a saturation point of 12.8 with no effects at all. And cooked beef gives you a saturation point of here it is, 12.8 with no effects whatsoever. And by comparing those two, yeah, they're pretty much just the exact same. So, like I said, no difference whatsoever. Now, pumpkin pie is a very interesting one. Obviously, you're going to need pumpkin, but you're also going to need what's it called? You're going to need sugar and 1 egg, and that's pretty much it. Put that in a crafting table, and you get yourself pumpkin pie. It has a saturation effect of 4.8 with no effects. Oh, and of course it can be used to, not be used, but it could also be traded with a villager, specifically a farmer. Yeah, that's pretty much about it for that. Now then, rabbit stew. Rabbit stew, I swear, when I looked into this whole food thing, rabbit stew threw me off when it came to its food thing. It has a saturation point of 12, so pretty high and pretty good, with no effects, and of course can be made using carrot, baked potato, mushroom of any type, and cooked rabbit. Or you could trade with a villager, specifically a butcher. And yeah, that's pretty much it for those ones. Now then, cake. Oh boy, cake. Cake is a very interesting thing. This is the fact that, as I've mentioned, it gives off 2 each time you eat a slice, or a total of 14 food points. So for every 1 slice gives you 0.4 saturation points. For the whole cake, it gives you 2.8 saturation points with no effects, and is crafted using based off what I'm remembering is using milk, wheat, eggs, and sugar. Specifically 3 buckets of milk, 3 wheat, 2 eggs, and 1 thing of sugar, or it can be traded from a farmer. So yeah. And now, finally, the last chest, which needed its own little thing, because technically all these variants would go into the same category as let me find it real quick. As this one, I believe. Yes, it's this one. It would go. All of these soup variants would go into this chest. However, the reason why I threw them out into their own thing is because this is suspicious stew. All of these have a saturation point of 7.2. And that's already all impressive. And the reason why they're all spread out like this is because suspicious stew is made with, obviously, a bowl, yeah, totally a bowl, a bowl with both mushroom variants and a flour, any flour whatsoever. What that happens though is that each flower gives off their own effect, which is all interesting on its own. These effects can run from regeneration, jump boost, poison, wither, weakness, blindness, fire resistance, and night vision. So, oh, and it's saturation as well. What does that lead you? Well, this is where I'm going to start breaking it down for you. If you throw in an Oxy Daisy, you will end up getting yourself regeneration for 6 seconds. Wither Rose will give you, of course, Wither for 6 seconds as well. The Lily of the Valley will give you Poison for 10 seconds. The Cornflower will give you Jump Boost for 4 seconds. The Poppy will give you Night Vision for 4 seconds. The Oleum, I believe that's how you pronounce it, will give you Fire Resistance for 2 seconds. And the Ozru Bullet, I don't know, will give you Blindness for 6 seconds. These two, both the Dandelion and the Blue Orchid, will give you Saturation for 0.3 seconds. Which doesn't exactly sound a whole lot, but I'll explain. And every single tulip variation, at least I think I got all of them, will give you weakness for 7 seconds. So, not too bad with these effects, which is all strange, this fact of what exactly they do and how exactly they work and all that stuff. But regardless, there you go. That's all of the food saturation effects, which is just something all on its own. So yeah, that's pretty much about it. However, apparently the saturation effect gives you a boost when it comes to the normal suspicious stew, because if made correctly, which is a very awkward process that doesn't exactly fully make sense. Even I couldn't really make sense out of it when I first found out about this suspicious stew variation. So all has the same name. Gives you a food point of 13 or 6.5 drumsticks. It's made the same way here, but it's a different version of it. Can of course still be found within Bedrock, of course, and it gives you a saturation point of 21.2, which is really impressive. Almost arguably one of the best types of soups or foods out there when it comes to food points and saturation. But of course, it's not easy since you can't stack it. You need basically 4 slots just to make this food. So yeah. And that's pretty much about it. That is all of the food variants. So without further ado, thank you everyone for joining me in this grand adventure of Minecraft lessons. I hope you all enjoyed and learned something or something when it comes to this video. And yeah, I will see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.